We are we're going to have a prime time a talk with the finance doctor as we bless an anointed traveling experience for our trade whisperer, Miss Tasha M. Dyer. So thank you all for putting in the chat where you are coming from and your affirmations, because we always want to start off by claiming the truth that we know about our present and about our future. So welcome to a talk with the finance doctor prime time. So let me remind everyone that this is relationships in the market, part 8. Our 8-part series concludes tonight. So as you all are joining the call and putting your affirmations in the chat, it is such a pleasure to greet everyone. We have Jacksonville, Florida in the house. We have Cleveland, Ohio in the house. Of course, we have Tavares. We've got Columbus, Ohio. We've got Illinois, Duval again, California. For those of you who are from other countries, Duval is the county that Jacksonville is in. And for whatever reason, they're just so proud of their county. You hear me, Miss Clayton. And we've got Cleveland, Ohio. We've got Miramar, Florida. We've got the great state of Minnesota, Claremont, Florida. So welcome everyone to a talk with the finance doctor, Be Your Own Bank Worldwide. So again, let me ask this question before we get started. If you are on one of these Tuesday or Thursday night calls for the first time, can you please signify by putting a 111 in the chat, Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the house? Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the house. Please put a 111 if this is your first time on one of our calls. Okay, once again, I'm welcoming everyone to a talk with the finance doctor, and I'd like to briefly describe this call just in case we have individuals who are watching this video at some point in the future. A talk with the finance doctor is a call that was designed for us to have an intimate dialogue with each other, discussing all matters trading, personal finance, and economic empowerment. This call is based on the premise that we recognize that personal finance is the only area of our society where the individuals who sell the products to you just happen to be the same individuals who share information about the product with you. That creates a situation which may be beneficial to the organization, but may or may not be beneficial to your household. As I've been saying for almost 30 years, I am not anti-institution, I am pro-household. So with that in mind, this call is designed for us to have a conversation. And in this forum, I want to make the distinction that this call is a little bit different than the ones that are provided by expert educators, because in that type of chart-based delivery system, it makes sense for you to put your questions in the chat. But for this particular call, we benefit by walking in what I refer to as the power of the unmuted microphone, by making sure that if you have a question, you unmute your mic and ask. So before we get started with part 8 of relationships in the market, with the market, are there any questions, comments, or testimonies from our audience? Excellent. So let's proceed. So very quick background to put us all on the same page for parts 1 through 7. The comment was made, we must have a relationship with the market. And when it was said for the umpteenth time in the BYOB community, it made me think about a historical piece of my life. And that is that when I was an instructor, when I allowed institutions to dictate to me what I was worth, when I allowed institutions to determine where I had to be and when I had to be there, when during that time period, I was the young professor on campus, so a lot of individuals would come to me and tell me about their relationships. I happened to be at that time be teaching a personal finance class. So those two worlds colliding made me recognize a very fundamental truth. Personal finance and relationships are two very important components of our life, but we're never taught how to do either. We're not taught how to make money. We're not taught how to manage money, and we're not taught how to manage relationships. Thus, this 8-part series, Relationships with the Market, Part 8. So let me begin by reminding everyone what you already know. I said this to someone this week. God does not send messages. He sends confirmation and reinforcement. It's already something that you already know. It's just a reminder. So let me remind you of what you already know. How you do one thing is how you do all things. How you do one thing is how you do all things. So we, as products of this planet, as products of this earth, we literally are part of the earth. I was having a conversation with someone earlier today, and we were dividing numbers and doing calculations, and we kept coming up with the same number over and over, and the person represented or made the comment that it's a Fibonacci sequence. It's just a natural occurring part of the earth that we see repeated in different scenarios, whether it's a trade or whether it's a sunflower or whether it is a shell that you see on the beach. This pattern repeats itself because we literally are part of this earth. So I said all that to say this: the earth is 75% water. Our bodies are 75% water. So these are not coincidences. These are just representations of the fact that we, as spiritual beings having an earthly experience, let me say it again, that we, as spiritual beings having an earthly experience, we have patterns that are very like the patterns we see all around us. Well, obviously the same thing is true of trading. So almost every time we have a live call, almost every time we have an educational call, the comment comes up about hitting a resistance line or hitting a support line and reversing, a pullback, a correction. If you really think about it, these are all things that we deal with in our regular lives. I'm sitting here right now with a blazer on, and nobody can see the raggedy shorts I have on, and I'll never admit to you that I have on raggedy shorts because that's a trade secret. But as I sit with my feet on this floor, it's a support. It is literally supporting me. It is keeping me from going down. This is the support. If I look up there, there's a ceiling. That's the resistance. If I showed you my incredible vertical leap and I jumped up and hit the ceiling, it would resist me. Support, resistance. Isn't it interesting that Ms. Dyer always says support, resistance, resistance, support, and use them interchangeably? Because they are interchangeable. Because my daughter is upstairs matriculating, and as she's matriculating, that same ceiling to me is her floor. So it's a resistance to me, but it's a support to her. Oh, I just helped somebody crack the code of support and resistance. It's just a line that represents this is a point at which a pattern, a pair, an indice, a crypto is going to go to that certain point, and then it's going to pull back. It's going to come back. So this same resistance and support, this same line that causes a rejection is such a part of what we do. It's such a part of how we operate. Because here's something we say all the time. Once this pair, once this pattern breaks out of this range, breaks through this line, then I'll take it. Oh, I just said something. Once this pattern breaks through this line, now I'll take it. Well, how many times have you recognized that that's what we do? When we make a decision to do something of significance. When we make a decision to do something that will change our paradigm. What is a paradigm? A paradigm is a fancy word for a set of beliefs that we have. When we make a decision to change our paradigm, we're going to hit resistance. And when we hit that resistance, guess what we're going to do? We're going to bounce back. We're going to reject. Now, here's the deal. Here's the deal. After there's a rejection, after you correct yourself, you have a decision to make about what you're going to do next. I used the analogy on Tuesday of the pot and all of the gunk that we're carrying and how it comes up to the surface. Well, here's another way of looking at the same thing. In 1997, I was blessed enough to be a consultant for the Hewlett-Packard organization out in Palo Alto, California. So what I did was I took my car and I shipped it out to California. And back then, 1997 now, so I was like 12 years old. Now, yeah, I was one of those Doogie Howser types. Ooh, the young people don't even know who Doogie Howser is. So it was 1997, I was a young man, and my car was a stick shift. Do they even make stick shifts anymore? It was a stick shift. So if you've ever been to Northern California in the San Francisco area, one of the geographical scenarios inherent in that area, hills. They're huge hills. So when I would be in San Francisco driving, I noticed something very interesting about driving my stick shift car in Northern California. If I was on a hill, and I wanted to put my stick shift into first gear, I would put my foot on the clutch and I put my other foot on the gas. And then when I would put it in first, because of the incline, it would rock back. But what I noticed that was even more interesting is that the steeper the incline, the steeper the hill, the more it would rock back. So I wonder how many of you have caught that from this corny analogy. I'm explaining to you what happens in your life. Because the steeper the incline, the higher you're about to go, the bigger the change, the bigger the paradigm shift, the higher you're going from where you are and where your family has been and those intergenerational scenarios unaware that have been keeping you down, the higher your elevation is about to be, the more the rock back, the more the rock back. Some of you have been waiting to push the button because there's so much rock back. Some of you have chosen not to make the best decisions that you could make for your life because of the rock back. Some of you have had some issues in your really good relationship that has all of the potential to bless both of you because of the rock back. Some of you have held on to energies about your family members because of the rock back. When in reality, the rock back, BYOBers, is an indication that you're about to break through a zone, that it's a higher incline. It was so consistent. Small hill, small rock back. Huge hill, huge rock back. So what if you just paused for a second? And what if you just thought about the fact that all of this rock backery that you're dealing with, all of these rockbatics that you're experiencing, all of these rockabatics that you are dealing with, instead of complaining about the rockbackeries, what if you just rejoice about the hill? I just said something. What if instead of complaining about the rockbackeries, you just was grateful about the hill, about the incline? I'm experiencing all of this rock back, so I know I'm about to blow up. I'm experiencing all of this rock back, so I know I'm about to be the bomb.com. We still say that, right? I'm experiencing all of this rock back, so I know that we're about, I made myself chuckle on that one. We're about to make it happen. So what I am suggesting is that as you continue to show up every day, and develop your skill set and put yourself in the best position to take advantage of this outstanding opportunity you have, when you take advantage of this outstandingly easy and efficient cash out strategy that we have, as you take advantage of these 40 plus coaching and mentoring calls that we do per month, when you take advantage of this outstanding first-class educational system that we have in IM Academy, when you take advantage of this outstanding software, especially the Vibrata, which houses the BYOB cash out strategy, when you think about what you have, instead of thinking about all of the rock back, instead of thinking about all the rejection, wait a minute. There's somebody on this call right now that made the decision to be our business partner. And you know it was a good decision. But there are people in your ear that are talking to you. There are people in your ear that are rejecting you. There are people in your ear that are saying, that ain't gonna work. How are you gonna do that? And you are beginning to listen to the rejection. The rejection that you feel when the people around you are not supporting you the way you think they should, you're responding to the rejection. What happens when there's a rejection? When there's a rejection, one or two things happen. Either you continue to go back to that line and bust through that resistance, or you change directions, or you change your trend. Are you really going to let somebody else who is not where you are allow your direction to be changed? Are you really going to put yourself in a position when you know you have what it takes to push through that resistance to let somebody else dictate to you, somebody who has yet to accomplish anything of value? Ooh, just said something. Somebody who has yet to accomplish anything of value. Ooh, Dr. B, that's judgy. That's so judgy, I'm going to say it a third time. Somebody who has yet to accomplish anything of value, and you're going to let them be in your ear, and you're going to allow them to distract you from what you know is the right vehicle at the right time with the right skill set to put you in a position where you can do the Miss Anderson and you can easily have that $1 million in your account in a year with one trade at 10 pips and cash out. Let me tell you why I love that presentation. I love that presentation because it shows you what you can do with one trade at 10 pips and cash out. But how many of us are doing more than one trade? How many of us are doing more than 10 pips and cash out? The way in which we present this material is so outstandingly clever because we're saying, okay, beginners, let's make this simple. Go to that 15-minute chart and do 10 pips and cash out. Now, while you're doing that, we're going to keep talking. We're going to keep training. We're going to keep mentoring. We're going to keep coaching. And as we continue to do that, guess what's going to develop? Your skill set. I have a child upstairs. Well, she's not upstairs right now, but she's supposed to be upstairs, but I let her go with her mother. So this child that's upstairs, I remember distinctly when she was in the 5th grade, she played on a travel basketball team that was older. It was a 7th grade team, and she was a 5th grader. When I tell you that chick cried every game, she cried and cried and cried and cried because she wasn't able to get in the game. Daddy, I practice all week and I shoot my shots and they won't let me get in the game. Baby, it's okay. Your time is coming. You know, it's funny how we humans hold on to things. We went to a graduation party 3 weeks ago. And the graduation party, one of the guests was the coach of that team when she was in the 5th grade. So we saw him, hey, Coach Matt, how you doing? And my daughter was like, hey. So she's still holding on to that thing from 5th grade because he made her cry. But what he really did was he made her better. What he really did is he made her develop her skill set. So now when I watch that chick on the basketball court, she doing spin moves and she doing the finger roll and she taking people's balls. And I remember she used to cry in 6th grade middle school when somebody would come up and steal her ball from her. And now she's stealing ball from people older than her. So all I'm saying is she may have started out on a 15-minute time frame. She may have started out doing 10 pips and cash out, but she kept showing up and developing her skill set. So as she continued to develop her skill set, as she continued to get better and better and better, now she owns the game. It's no thing to her. She literally can show up and give minimal effort and piss her daddy off. Can you say piss on a talk with a finance Dr. Carl? and piss her daddy off because she's so talented that she doesn't even have to give 100%. That could be you. That could be you. When you show up and you don't even have to do anything, and you just, boom, there go my 3 trades, boom, there go my 9 trades, because Miss Anderson's chart was about 1 trade. But I just did 11 of them, and it's more than 10 pips to cash out. So think how quickly you can get yourself where you need to be if you just understand this fundamental principle. The pullback is an indication that you're on a steep incline to success. The rejection is an indication that you have the ability to push through this resistance line. The correction is just you making a decision to do the normal thing, which is pull back before you do what you have to do. Stop giving energy to your pullbacks and keep thinking about the incline. Stop giving energy to your pullbacks and instead develop the skill set so you can bust through the resistance. Push the button, push the button, push the button. I thought this was supposed to be about relationships. It is, because I'm telling you about your relationship to the market, and I'm telling you about your relationship to yourself. I'm telling you about the best relationship, which is your relationship with you and your relationship with this vehicle. You have an opportunity to change the trajectory of your family. And the only way you can fail, the only way you can fail is to stop. Is to stop. Is to stop. Keep showing up. And it's funny. Y'all to show up for that $15 an hour job. Y'all to show up for that job with an organization is telling you where you have to be. Y'all to show up for that institution that will look at you and say, let me determine whether or not you're worthy through the interview process. We really like what you had to say, but you are our 3rd choice. And then once they make you the 1st choice, then they're going to tell you, okay, this is what I need you to do, and this is what time, and this is how long, and this is, oh, sorry, we had to change the plans. We're now going to be outsourcing to India, so we're going to make a different decision. You really want to be in that position where somebody does, you'll show up for that job, but are you showing up for yourself? Let me look at the camera. Are you showing up for yourself? Are you showing up for yourself? Are you showing up for yourself? So this is a conversation about you recognizing who you are and what you have access to. So please understand that how you do one thing is how you do all things. And I want you to love you enough to show up for this process. I have plenty to say on this talk with the Finance Dr. Primetime, but I'm going to pause in case there are any questions, comments, or testimonies. I set y'all up.
Yes, you did, Dr. B. Good evening.
Ms. Clayton.
I am wonderful. That right there, you just said everything that have definitely has been present within my life. I'm showing up for me, my success and my value. I know what my worth is. And I'm so glad that you got on here and you said that, because I know I'm not the only one that's feeling that way, or sometimes, may get into that state. So I appreciate you to the fullest for every single word that you just said. That was dead on for me.
Thank you for that, Ms. Clayton. Just think about it, Ms. Clayton. We say it all the time. The market always moves, but it does not move in a straight line. Same thing with us. We're always moving. So you have 2 questions to ask yourself. Number 1, are you moving in the right direction? And number 2, are you prepared when there's a correction? Are you prepared when there is a rejection? When you're prepared when there is a normal pullback? It's part of the process. There's no way to get there. My daughter would not be able to be where she is, about to be a senior, probably one of the best players in the county, if she didn't go through that experience in the 5th grade, crying on Coach Matt's team and now embarrassing me by rolling her eyes at Coach Matt at a graduation party. I'm gonna have to get over that. So any other questions, comments, or testimonies? So one of the things that we've been talking about in our part 1 through 7 is we've been talking about how important it is that when we show up in this environment, that we show up on the charts, that when we put ourselves in a position to trade, that we do everything in our power to have the proper mindset. There's a big picture, there's a macro element there, there's a micro element. What's the macro element? The macro element is we see it all the time in the stories of lottery winners who win the lottery and they put themselves in a position where they are back broke. And it's simply because the Bible calls it out by saying, we don't put new wine in old wineskins. So an individual will win the lottery, but their mindset is the same. So their mindset will put themselves in a position where they'll go right back to it. You know what, y'all? Let's go a little bit deeper in this. There's a concept called cybernetics. And cybernetics is a device that allows for a correction to take place with a particular situation. Let me give you two examples. One example of cybernetics is an airplane. So an airplane is programmed for a particular direction. It's going to go on this straight line. But wind, different things, the plane, the heaviness, the movement, the current, all those things make the plane go off of the path. And then when the plane goes off of the path, it'll correct back into the particular position. There was a gentleman who described what a rocket does, Dr. Lonnie, and he said that a rocket corrects itself to the moon because it's going to go off course, then go back on course. Go off course, go back on course. So the cybernetics is what makes it go back on course. I've got a better example. I come in the house today and I'm cold. It's this cold, it's raining outside, it's cold air going. So I yell up to my girls and say, what's the temperature? So what do? They, of course, roll their eyes first. And after I can feel it from down here, after they roll their eyes, they change the thermostat because daddy is a little punk and he can easily put on a sweater, but daddy wants us to turn down the thermostat. Now think about that. When you put the thermostat on, it is a cybernetic instrument. So the thermostat is going to be at a certain temperature. And if anything happens that is going to change that temperature, it'll come on. And if it comes on, it'll get it back to that temperature. So if something happens to make it cold, then it'll just turn the air on. Or better yet, if something, say I use the oven and then it gets hotter and then it'll come on. So the cybernetic instrument simply is going to be programmed to be in a certain position. And anything that takes it off its course, it'll correct it back to what it's programmed to be. Why are you talking about this on a relationship call? Because you and I need to be real about the way we see ourselves. Because the way we see ourselves is a self-image. Sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's subconscious. When we have a self-image of ourselves, and then we take some actions that are going to move us away from the self-image, you are a cybernetic instrument. There's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics that breaks down what I'm saying from a mental perspective. How do we mentally make ourselves a cybernetic instrument? Well, this is the self-image of myself. So if I do something that's going to take me away from that, I'm going to self-correct back to the cybernetic image. Can I give you an example? I want to lose weight. So I take steps, I diet, I exercise, and then I lose weight. So now I'm at a certain amount of pounds that's different than when I was when I started the process. But if my self-image sees myself as big, sees myself as maybe I went through some things as a child that have scarred me to the point where I don't want to be attractive. I feel more money, more problems, more pretty, more problems. So I may have a self-image of not wanting to be attractive. And so I will find a way to gain the weight back. That's a psycho-cybernetic instrument. What does this have to do with relationships? What does this have to do with trading? Everything. Because one of the reasons why we ask you to do the affirmations, one of the reasons why we're so aggressive about you having the proper mindset, because if you have a self-image that says, this is who I am, I'm the son of a carpenter, I am this, I am that, I don't come from nothing, I've never done this before, I've never accomplished this, then when you find yourself putting yourself in a position where your trading account is high, your cybernetic instrument says, hey, wait a minute, that's not the way we see ourselves. So it takes you back to where you were. And if you find yourself, Miss Clayton, in a rut, but you know you're a superstar, then you just ride it on out and you're going to take yourself right back to where you belong. So what we have to do is understand that we are a cybernetic instrument, and it starts with our self-image. So having our mindset, thank you for that, Miss Clayton, because I come on this call with a true anointing to say what needs to be said. I got to tell y'all something I said to somebody last night. When I did the first relationship part one, it was not planned because it was stated in the call before mine. So I heard it, I got an idea, I showed up. But part 2 through 8, I decided I'm going to prepare. I'm going to take some notes. I'm going to do some research. Guess how many times I did that? Zero. I kept saying I was going to do it, but I didn't. And the reason why I did is because when I come to this call, I just ask God to put me in a position where I can read the energy of these rectangles. God, give me the words that these rectangles need. So I had to pause and say that because when Miss Clayton just put in the chat confirmation, I ain't know. Did he say, I ain't know? I meant to say, well, I didn't know. No, I didn't. I meant to say, I ain't know. I ain't know. I just showed up. Now, how about this? This is a message for someone because some of us are spending way too much time thinking everything through and trying to plan everything. I had a coaching session today with a delightful young man. He's one of my favorite people. And he wanted all the rules. What are the rules? What do I do? What time do I trade? How do I do this? How do I do that? And sometimes when we're so caught up in the rules, we miss the ability to be able to let it come to us. Just understand that all you have to do is show up. So if one of these, let me just keep it positive. So the bottom line is this: make yourself be a vessel. The same way I will come to this call and know that I can talk to you for an hour about something, thank you for that, Miss Hightower, but something that has not been planned, you can do the same thing. Of course, you got to develop the skill set, but you don't have to be so regimented. You don't have to practice so much that you're not able to just show up and allow it to come to you. Have a little swag in your analysis. All right, okay, trading account, let's go. Let's put ourselves in a position. All right, market, what are you going to give me? Oh, red folded it? All right, cool. Or I was going to go to this one, or let me go to this one. You have to let the market come to you. You have to have a relationship with the market. But of course, you first have to have a relationship with yourself. Let me shift gears. So many times in these types of conversations, I talk about my children. I talk about my children because they are important to me. I am the ultimate girl dad. To me, girl dad is about how I feel, not about what I do, not about how they feel. It's about how I feel. I love my girls, single dad of 3 daughters, and my life is basically around them. They are my why. So I said all that to say this. I was that dude. Ooh, let me tell you a story from my life. So I was that dude that when I was a high school football player, I was good, but there was a backstory to my goodity that nobody knew, and I'm about to expose it for the first time on this call. So I was such a student. I was such a nerd. I was such a researchologist that anytime I ever did anything, I would study. I put myself in a position where I prepared. So I was a cornerback. That is the person on defense, like Deion Sanders. So I was really good as a cornerback. But then my junior year, our wide receiver got hurt. And so my coach came to me and said, we want you to play wide receiver. So can you go ahead and go to the wide receiver position? I said, coach, would it be okay if I did it tomorrow? You know what I'm saying? Can I just do it tomorrow? But why? We want you to go to wide receiver now. No, sir. Can I just do it tomorrow? So I left practice, nerdy McNerdiston, and I went to the library. And I read a book by Lynn Swan of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who talked about how to be a wide receiver, what to do. There's a practice that he did, I still do today, because I play flag football on Wednesday nights. He said, always lotion your hands and keep them very moist. That way you'll have soft hands when you catch the ball. I still do that to this day. So what I'm trying to say is instead of just showing up and playing wide receiver, I went and got all the information, so I put myself in the best position to be able to prepare. So what are you saying? I'm saying this. That is a nerdy practice that I have done my entire life. So this is what I did when I found out that my first child was going to be a female. I think I have enough love and enough understanding. I've always loved kids to be able to be a good dad. But there's Nerdy McNerdiston again. I went to the library looking for a book. And I found this book called She Calls Me Daddy. And the book broke down the best way to be the best dad that you can be. Also never said this publicly. I want y'all to think it was just natural and organic. And they still talk about how I catch. They call me OG in the flag football because I'm 54. 54 is the new 24, and the next youngest person on my team is 38. So they call me OG. They be like, man, OG got them hands, man, OG. That's how they talk. OG can catch. Yes, he can catch, but he had to go to the library first. So I'm not saying you should go to the library. I'm not saying you should read a book before you have kids. I'm just saying that I'm always a student of everything I do. So one of the things I learned in that book, and I want y'all to hear me because I want this to be relevant to your life, even if you are not a girl dad. One of the things it said was this: when you are dealing with your daughter, make sure that you never compliment another female in her presence on something that she would not be able to accomplish. So for example, I tell them all the time how pretty their friends are because they're pretty. But I wouldn't go in front of them, I'm talking when they're little, and say, "Oh, she has beautiful red hair," because they don't have red hair. There's no way for them to have red hair. So it sends a message to the child. Can we get real for a second, y'all? Psychologists say that females, I'm about to hit some nerves. Psychologists say that females define themselves based on how they view their father views them. Let me say it again. People, or psychologists say that women define themselves on how they view that their father views them. I didn't say how the father views them, how they view that their fathers view them. There's an old saying from the spiritual library, from the spiritual curriculum that says, I do not define myself on how I see me, and I do not define myself on how you see me. I define myself on how I see you see me. So we put so much on the way people perceive us. Had a conversation with someone today about that, and that person knows who I'm talking about. So it's very important that we recognize that. So this one little tip was something that I've used in other areas of life, because the reason why I would not compliment somebody else on something that they wouldn't be able to accomplish, because they just want to please daddy. If they want to please daddy, and in that moment they view that daddy likes red hair, there's nothing they can do to have red hair. So I've created a situation of dissonance. I want to please daddy, but how can I do that? That was before people started dyeing their hair red and the red weaves. That's a different situation. I'm talking about when my babies were babies. So I said all that to say this. We need to recognize the responsibility that we have, parents, to love on our children through encouragement instead of correction. Didn't he say earlier in the call that the markets provide patterns that we can see? And one of the things that always happens is correction. The vibrato triggers on a correction. The vibrato triggers on a correction. The vibrato triggers on a correction. Parents, how many of you only triggered on correction? But I'm the parent. I'm supposed to correct them. Yes, you are. But if all you do is correct, it doesn't matter what you're correcting. What matters is you're sending the message that they need to be corrected. I just said something. Y'all are all outstanding parents. Y'all just aren't the nerds I am. And I just happened to go to the library before I played football, and I happened to go to the library before I had kids. And so there's an understanding that kids are going to define themselves based on how you view them. So I want you to be real for a second, parent. I want you to be real for a second, parent. Now hear me. I am acknowledging that every single thing that you say to them is true. Everything that you say to them is accurate. Everything that you say to them is something that needs to be said. Every single thing that you say to them is out of love because you want to protect them and you want to make them better. What I'm saying is, as a society, we've gotten comfortable only correcting our children, only correcting our children. So I'm suggesting that a way for us to have the proper mindset to show up for our trading and take advantage of this, and here's something I know happens. Some of you want to trade, but when you're trading, there are children in the background that get on your nerves. One of the reasons why they get on your nerves is because all you talk about is that they get on your nerves. Oh, but I would never say that to them. You don't have to. 75% of communication is nonverbal. So some of us do not say anymore that our kids get on. Thank you for that, Miss Clayton. Some of us do not say that our kids get on our nerve, but it's an energy, and they feel it, and they pick up on it. You ever walked in a room with somebody, you just felt better? Oh, every time I'm around that person, they make me feel good. Yes. So you got to think, how are you making your children feel? Some of you are focusing only on how they're making you feel, but how are you making them feel? So all I'm suggesting is this: for every correction, add some encouragement. For every correction, add some encouragement. I am a lifelong used to be educator. And one of the things that we learn is we learn approaches on how to correct students. And we especially learn that in online, because online is asynchronous. There's no relationship there. You don't have a give and take. So when you're in an online environment, it's very important that you find techniques to have an inflection in the tone that makes the person feel good. So one of our techniques is called the sandwich technique. The sandwich technique. The sandwich technique is this: there's a correction that needs to happen. I need this person to know that they'll be better if they do this. So what you do is you take that correction and you sandwich it in between two compliments. You sandwich it in between two compliments. So you give them a compliment, boom. Then you hit them with the correction, boom. Then you hit them with another compliment. We parents get so caught up in our energy toward what they're not doing, that all we do is see what they're not doing. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So again, I've already called it out. This is out of love. There's no evil, mean parents on this call. All of you love your children. I'm just suggesting that we can do it in a higher vibration by recognizing that if we only correct, then what do they begin to feel? That they need to be corrected. Would you imagine what our market would look like if it only corrected? The correction is always small compared to the trend. The correction is always short compared to the length of the trend. Maybe we should be like that. How you do one thing is how you do all things. We just said that our lives are like the market. Well, how come in the market, the correction is less than the trend? But in your household, the correction is more than the trend. Some of you, it's only a correction. Ask yourself this for real, for real. My children taught me this. When you say it twice, it's an intensifier. For real, for real. Ask yourself, in the last 7 days, how many times have you complimented or encouraged your children? I'm going to ask it again. In the last 7 days, how many times have you corrected? See how it's natural? How many times have you encouraged and complimented your children? Now, if that answer is a small number, it's cool. Here's the deal. It is the wrong energy to do to yourself what you did to them. We're not asking you to fuss at yourself because you haven't complimented them and encouraged them. We're just asking you to shift your awareness, to think about the fact that, hey, I can start tonight. As soon as I get off this call, as soon as he prays, I can go, y'all saw that? I can go and compliment my kid. Now, some of you say, yeah, I've been complimenting my kid over the last 7 days, beautiful. But now ask yourself this question: what's the ratio? What's the ratio, yo? What is it? Is your encouragement to correction ratio in the positive, or is your encouragement to correction ratio to the negative? Now, don't get it twisted. Some of you just thought, yeah, but you don't know my kid. Yeah, but you don't know what she did. Yeah, but you don't know what he did. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Are they doing those things because they're matching your vibration? Or did they do those things and then you match their vibration? Doesn't matter. What matters is that they will beat who they think you see. I'm going to say it again. I do not see myself as I see me. I do not see myself as you see me. I see myself as how I see you see me. So you have an opportunity now to change the game on your children. Oh yeah, but my children grown. Now's the time to shift it. Because if you begin to encourage and compliment your grown children, guess what you just did? You not only are putting them in a position where you can heal the relationship with them, but you also are sending a message so they can go and start being better to their children, present or future. So what I'm suggesting to you, ladies and gentlemen, is that we need to be like the market. The market is a little bit correction, a whole bunch of trend. The trend is your friend. The trend is your friend. The trend is your friend. Our new trend is to compliment and encourage our children. I'm going to pause on purpose. Questions, comments, testimonies about what I had just said. Questions, comments, testimonies.
Powerful, Dr. B. Powerful.
Thank you. Who's speaking?
Stephanie Hightower.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Somebody said that their ratio is positive. That's a beautiful thing. So let's help others to do the same thing. That's great. That's outstanding. Anybody else have something they'd like to say?
Yes, Dr. B, it was a confirmation as you use that scripture. I think of the heart. So it's the other scripture that comes to mind is that all those things as if they were. And that's the key. As we implement them, even if it's not what we see at this time, the more we compliment them on that, the more they become what we're complimenting them on. And I thank you because this is so real and so down to earth. You know, so many times we sit in situations where we hear and we're taught things that are so irrelevant, but real life. This is where we live, and it's helping us to be much better people, the ones that God wants us to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Ms. Brownlee. I really do appreciate that. Any other questions, comments, testimonies about us shifting the way we encourage and compliment our children? Thank you. Now, one of the things that we've been talking about this entire 8-part series is we've been talking about the relationships that we have with the special people in our lives, whether they're spouses or whether they are business partners or whether they are play cousins or baby mamas. Can I say baby mamas on the professional call? I guess so. Whatever interactions you're having, we need siblings. We really need to make sure that we put ourselves in the position of vibrating high. Now, I want you to think about the premise that as parents, because it is our responsibility to get them in the best position, to be the best adults, to protect them, to make them ready for the world. Remember Ready for the World, Jerry Curse? So I digress. That's your fault, Ms. Anderson. So bottom line is we want to put ourselves in a position where we recognize a truth. And that is, we parents oftentimes do that to our children. But sometimes we do the same thing as leaders. Sometimes as leaders, we get into this position where we want what we think is best for the organization. We have love for the organization and we want the organization to be the best that it can be. And so we do the same thing. We recognize that the market only corrects a little bit and then it goes back to the trend. But then when we are analyzing our constituents, when we're analyzing the people that we're leading, we sometimes do the same thing. In our effort and energy to make sure things are right, we only correct. We only correct, or our ratio is negative. Well, our ratio of compliments to corrections is very small. So what if we took this same advice and recognized that this comment applies to everybody? I don't see myself as how I see myself. I don't see myself as how you see me. I see myself as how I see you see me. So leaders, we have to recognize that to keep our organization strong, to keep your organization strong, to keep whatever it is you're leading strong, whether you're coaching or whether you're mentoring or whether you're doing something professional or you're over a nonprofit, whatever it is that you're doing, you need to recognize that the same principles apply. If you have someone that is only getting corrections from you, if you have someone that is mostly getting corrections from you, if you have someone that hears more corrections than they hear compliments, it is possible that even though everything you're saying may be true, you could literally be putting themselves in a position where you beat them down so much that they don't have any more strength to want to do what you want them to do. So the energy of correcting them all the time is out of love. I love what we're doing, so let me correct you so you can get it right. But because I correct you so much, you no longer have the ability to get it right. Say it again, Dr. B. Okay. I want to get it right, so I correct you. But I correct you so much that you no longer have the spirit to get it right. So what if we use the sandwich approach? What if we use the sandwich approach in leadership? What if we decided that we want to make sure that we compliment? And here's what happened. So it's so interesting. True story. Snatched from the headlines of my life, Ms. Brown. My oldest daughter, who's 19 right now, was in the 8th grade. And she was at basketball practice with her best friend. They play on the same travel team. So I'm watching my daughter and I'm watching her best friend. And they're doing dribbling drills. They're both point guards. So I was watching the way her best friend was dribbling, and I was watching the way she was dribbling, and I said this to myself. I said, man, I love the way best friend dribbles. She has a real tight handle. I wish my daughter had a tight handle like that. I'm gonna repeat it. I love the way the best friend is dribbling. She has a tight handle. I wish my daughter had a tight handle like that. So then later on in the practice, the best friend's dad walked up to me. He said, man, that's how he talked. Man, your daughter, man, she could dribble. She got a nice tight handle. I wish my daughter had a tight handle like that. Now, 2 points. Point one, that was the day when I realized that as a parent or as a coach, I don't care what a parent says, it's going one ear and out the other. Because your perception is tainted by your experience. Your perception is tainted by your role. Your perception is tainted by the way you think you see it, but it's not real. It's impossible for both of them to be real. But as a father, I want my child to be the best. So I had an illusion that made me see that my daughter was inferior to the other daughter. And the other parent did the same thing. In his love to want his daughter to be able to play basketball, and he was in a position where he needed her to play basketball so that she would go to college. So in his position, he saw her as being less than she really was, simply because of the perception and the experience. I'm being led now to go on a tangent. Now, he started training her in the 2nd grade because he knew she needed to have a basketball scholarship in order to go to college. Guess what? She did not play basketball in college. Guess why? Because he was so heavy on her, he put so much pressure on her, she decided not to play. She was good. She was talented. She played with my daughter. 3-year captain of her basketball team. But she didn't play because there was so much pressure. She didn't play because there was so much correction. So the correction and the practicing and the correction, it turned her off. And she didn't want to play anymore. I did not even know I was going to tell that part of the story, but I'm telling that part of the story because what I'm trying to get you to see is this. Your perception is an illusion. But if you focus, wait, whose perception is an illusion? All of ours. I'm the speaker. I'm the basketball coach. But my perception of my child was tainted because of my role. It was tainted because of my leadership experience. It was tainted because of my memories. It was tainted. All of our perceptions are an illusion. And that is why I say to you all over and over and over and over, if you see something and you don't like it, you have to lower your vibration to not like it, and you have to lower your vibration to point at it and say, I don't like it. So what you do is you raise your vibration. And then when you raise your vibration, you'll see it differently. You'll see things you didn't notice before. Have you ever watched a movie the second time? And then you watch the movie the second time, you notice all kinds of things you didn't see the first time. Oh, they changed that movie, yeah, because that wasn't there before. It was there before, but you were a different person. I went to a Bob Proctor event about 2 years ago, and Bob Proctor said, I'm having an event in LA in 6 months, but I'm not going to be there. And I was like, oh, what's going on? Is he dying? And Bob said, I'm not going to be there because I'm going to be a different person. So he recognized that as we grow and develop, we become different. So what if we chose this opportunity to stop correcting, to stop looking for correction and just put ourselves in a position of vibrating high? Because when we vibrate high, you'll see things you didn't see before. You'll see things in a movie that you didn't know were there. Or they must have remade that movie. Or that person must have changed the way they do things. No, they didn't. You changed your vibration. And now that you're vibrating high, you see all the wonderful things you're doing. Compliment, compliment, compliment. Love what you did. That's the bomb. Love what you're doing. That's beautiful. Oh, you know, when you could do this. Okay, cool, I can do that. And they're going to respond better because there were 10 compliments and just 1 correction. The corrections in the market are only taking place for a short amount of time. But the trends, they move. Top-down analysis. Let's look at the long-term play and let's compliment and let's encourage and let's make everybody feel good about themselves. And then everybody will perform better because the more we correct, the more beat down the person feels and they put themselves in a situation where the very thing that we wanted to get, we pull ourselves away from it because we're correcting and correcting and correcting. Raise your vibration. So something's happening. You see it and you don't like it. So because you don't like it, you point to the person. But oftentimes what you see that you don't like is a reflection of who you are. It is a reflection of who you are. So what you do is, instead of pointing at the thing that needs to be corrected, you think about what are areas in my life where I'm doing the same thing. Let me give you an example. Okay, I feel disrespected by what they said. That's not cool. So I'm going to call them up and tell them, you disrespected me. How many times have you heard the finance doctor say this? People do not do and say things to you, they do and say things. People do not do and say things to you, they do and say things. It's not personal. So when you say, well, they didn't do that to that person, that's an illusion. When you say, well, they didn't do that to that person, that's an illusion. In order for you to be in a position where you're disrespected, you are a vibrational match for disrespect, or it wouldn't happen. Or I'm supposed to let them off the hook? No, you're supposed to recognize, watch this, if you check them and say, you're being disrespectful, guess what you're focusing on? Disrespect. So when you walk away from that situation, guess what you're going to attract in the next situation? Disrespect. Why? Because you're focusing on disrespect. So if instead you use this strategy, which is foolproof. Am I saying it's easy? Heck to the no. Am I saying it works? Heck to the yeah. If you look at all the areas in your life where you could have been more respectful and you read, oh, but that's different because this person did this. Well, that's different because it's not different. It's the same. So spend your energy raising your vibration and finding ways where you could be more respectful. And then suddenly, when you go to that movie again, you'll see things you never saw before. Why are they being so respectful? Because you focus on respect rather than disrespect. I'm telling you, it's one of the great ironies of this world. What you resist will persist. What you resist will persist. What you resist will persist. If you push against it, you're bringing it into your experience. I don't like what you did. Oh, you want more of that. I don't like what you said. Oh, you want more of that. Well, I think that you did this wrong. Oh, you want more things to be wrong. So let's put ourselves in a position of strength and power by raising our vibration. Push through those resistance areas, break out of that zone, break out of this range so we can create new patterns, so we can look at where we've been, we can look at all of the experiences we've had to the left, and now we can put ourselves in a position of wealth, abundance, happiness, peace. It's so easy. Is it easy to do? No, but it's really easy to understand the life. Anytime something is positive, anytime something is high vibration, anytime something is going to be of value, do that. Do that. Jealousy, guilt, correction, any of those qualities, it's low vibration. So you're asking for another low vibration situation. Let me give you an example to really put this into perspective. There was a couple, and the couple was in Phoenix, Arizona. They were in Phoenix, Arizona, and they wanted to go to San Diego, California. So they decided to get on their RV, their recreational vehicle, and go from Phoenix, Arizona to San Diego, California. So what they did was they put on their navigation, because the navigation system was going to help get them from Phoenix, Arizona to San Diego, California. Well, as they began to travel, guess what? Geographically, there's a lot of desert in between Phoenix, Arizona and San Diego, California. So what happened is that a bunch of places where there were no cell phone towers, the navigation would begin to malfunction. The navigation would be in a position where it wasn't working anymore. So when the navigation wasn't working, guess what happened? It turned them around. It turned around and started going back toward Phoenix. So let me see if I understand this concept. They're in Phoenix. They want to go to San Diego. To get there, they use the navigation. When the navigation is working, they're moving towards San Diego. When the navigation is broken, when it's not working, when it's malfunctioning, they're going back toward Phoenix. So watch this. Phoenix, Arizona is where you are right now. It's your present situation. It's your current set of problems. It is your bank account right now. It is your relationship scenario right now. It's your state of mind right now. San Diego, California represents your desires. Everything you want. I want world peace. I want peaceful relationships. I want great relations with my children. I want to get along with my family. I want peace and harmony in all the organizations that I'm involved in. I want everything to work out. That's your desire. That's where you're going. Peace, light, and love. Phoenix, Arizona, this is where you are. San Diego, California, those are your desires. The navigation system, your emotions. The navigation system, your emotions. So your emotions are going to be the signal for how you're vibrating. If you're vibrating high, guess how you feel? You feel good. If you're vibrating low, guess what? You feel bad. Everything that we've said this entire call has been about you feeling good or making other people feel good. You know, Wallace Wattles has a book called The Science of Getting Rich. In The Science of Getting Rich, there are principles that you have to get rich. And one of them is leave people with an impression of increase. That does not mean you tell them what they're doing wrong. That means you tell them what they're doing right so they feel good about themselves. Leave people with a sense of increase, with an impression of increase. I got excited. So back to my story. Navigation system, emotions. If you feel good, you're moving towards your desires. Love, happiness, compliments, feeling good, love what you're doing, love how you're doing it. Great job, yes. But if you feel bad, you're going back to where you came from. Remember how we started this? When I'm mad, I don't trade. When I'm mad, I don't trade. And we remixed it to because I trade, I'm always at peace. Your emotions are the indicator. If you're feeling good, then you're moving towards your desires. If you're feeling bad, you're going backwards. You're going to the past. You're repeating patterns. You're doing the same thing you did last year. You're doing the same thing you did when you were in middle school. You're repeating patterns because you feel bad. So you see how this connects to everything? Because how many times have I said, instead of checking somebody because they're not doing what you think is right, just check yourself and raise your vibration. Because if I raise my vibration, I feel better. And if I feel better, I'm moving toward my desires. I train so I want to feel good. I train so I want to be peaceful. I train so I want to be in the best mindset. I train so I want to compliment everybody. I train so I want to love everybody. I train so I want to put people in an impression of increase. Your emotions are your indicator that you are going in the same direction. Yes, feeling good is your strategy. Questions, comments, testimony, and guess what? It's free. It's free to feel good. All you have to do is make a decision. All you have to do is switch the game, and it always comes from the inside out. You don't get happiness by pointing at somebody else. You get happiness by putting your hand on your heart and doing what you can do to make yourself feel better. Questions, comments, testimonies. This has been a Talk with the Finance Doctor. Questions, comments, testimonies. Y'all got me sweating. Questions, comments, testimonies.
Dr. B.
Miss Clayton, tell me real quick. Yes, yes. I want to know what you want to do.
Yes. You know, this is so powerful. When you just stated about love, peace, high vibrations, you know, those are the same exact things that I write in my journal every single day, morning and at night. I'm so serious. And, you know, that's just where my mindset has been at, you know, just operating within that vein. So this entire call, it is definitely nothing but confirmation for me, you know, and as you stated, you know, just those callbacks and such, and you know that breakthrough is coming. Hey, that breakout, it is coming, and so I truly thank you for allowing God to use you in this hour, Dr. B. Truly.
Thank you so much for that, Miss Clayton. Questions, comments, testimonies from anybody?
Dr. B, this is the Master. How you doing?
I'm fine, ma'am. How are you? You coming in a little scratchy, Miss Anderson.
Uh-oh. Is that
That's
better?
much better. That's better. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. We grow up. Well, I grew up thinking that I needed to be perfect and I needed to be fearful of God versus I needed, as opposed to being taught, I should learn from the things that I haven't mastered and be loving. And so this is just confirmation of the fact that I need to be focused on love and growth and evolution as opposed to perfection and fear. And that's what religion teaches us to do, to be fearful. And therefore we don't take action because we don't know what's going to happen to us if we do X, Y, or Z. But when you're spiritually led, then you're loving. So I appreciate this. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. In my view, Miss Anderson, the most powerful, simple, succinct part of the word of God is love. You know, we're supposed to be like God, we should be loved.
Amen.
Questions, comments, testimonies. One more time, questions, comments, testimonies. Well, I would like to thank everyone for your attention this evening, for being coachable through this 8-part series. And I think that I'm happy this is something that we have in recording, that we can refer to it. And I've been very vocal about how my life has been made better by the things that God has asked me to say in this forum. We all have pullbacks, we all have corrections, and we all have an opportunity to grow and expand. So I thank you all for motivating this conversation. So questions, comments, testimonies. Mr. Rogers, do you have any final comments to make, sir?
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is why we do what we do. Yes, you came a part of this movement initially to be your own bank, but you know, our whole philosophy and concept is making sure that you're a whole person. And part of being whole is understanding your emotional strength, And your emotional strength is always going to lead to your financial decadence. And if you want to increase your financial wherewithal, let your emotions be strengthened, anchored in truth and purpose. So, once again, thank you, Dr. B, for guiding and directing us. But this information, it's valuable, and it's only valuable if you are giving it away. So, I want you to make a point in your mind and in your heart to bring and introduce someone else to this information, because this 8-part series has the ability to change the lives of many people that's on the other side of your correction. Think about that. Back to you, Dr. B.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Rogers. I really appreciate that. Once again, we thank everyone for a great week. It's been a very productive week. Please make sure you take advantage of non-farmer payroll tomorrow. And remember that we do not have any calls on Monday. So we will reconvene on Tuesday at 5 a.m. I absolutely love each and every one of you rectangles. And I love those of you that are listening to this in the recording. And so at this point, let's seal this conversation by ending it in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to dialogue about you, to make sure that we are mimicking you in every way. Thank you for your word. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your power. Heavenly Father, we are thankful. We are appreciative and we are grateful. Amen. Everybody have a wonderful night, a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you Tuesday at 5 a.m. Take care, and this will officially end this call.